and debate concepts surrounding leadership, business, personal achievement, and theoretical forms of currency in a way that may make you think twice before you implement that new idea you just learned all about on the internet. Welcome. I am Michael Rampolla.
And I am Brad James.
And today we are your co-hosts for this Take Two episode of Sketchy Ideas. And we are going to talk all about cryptocurrency in a way that makes the concept easy to understand. Because if you're like me, you want to get it and you don't get it. And every time you think you get it, you realize you still don't get it. There's a lot of confusing explanations out there, but fortunately, we do have an expert on staff, not me, who's going to make this all make sense. So today we're going to talk about crypto. And even if you know nothing about it now, you will come out of this with some basic knowledge about the internet money. Internet money. That just sounds like
magic internet money. That's what I tell people.
Magic internet. It's magic internet money. And if you like that, and you can buy magic beans with your magic internet money, if you like. No? That's a different thing? Anyway. All right, let's hear a word from our sponsors before I take us too far off the rails. Brad, that's your cue.
Sure. So our first presenting organization is Cream City Marketing. Again, thinking of everything that you have to do with marketing. There's a lot to it. You don't have to do it by yourself. Remember, there are people out there who understand what you're going through, how it works, how to help you implement it, how to do it maybe for you to add hours back to your week, especially if you're a small business owner or building a growing business and you don't necessarily have the resources in-house. Do me a favor, email Erin over at Cream City Marketing at erin@creamcitymarketing.com and have a conversation with her, and she's going to help you out.
Awesome. Sketchy Ideas is also powered by Spirity. Some days running your business feels like sitting at the controls of a machine without any user manual, and the levers aren't labeled, and the dials and gauges are all broken, and the lights are out. It doesn't have to be that way. Spirity wants to provide you with the missing manual that should have come with your small business. We're also going to label all those levers for you, tell you what they do. We might even turn the lights on if all goes well. And we're going to get those dials and gauges giving you valuable data readouts that are going to help you operate your business at its peak performance and not feel like you are pulling levers in the dark. Connect with us at spirity.com to learn more. And with that, here we go. All right, we're calling this crypto for common folk. I think I'm the common folk. I'm pretty sure that's my job today, is to be the everyman who wants to get it and doesn't get it, because I'm the guy who wants to get it and doesn't get it. So I'm just basically playing to type. On the other hand, Brad is the expert, which is also playing to type, and going to break this down in a way that I think is going to help us all make sense of it. All right, Brad, yeah. What the heck is this magic internet money all about?
So the concept around this, in this, I want people to imagine how well they have or what their level of financial literacy actually is, because I think that matters. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand how that's going to work for them in terms of how cryptocurrency or what even blockchain is. So I want people to understand cryptocurrency and the reasoning behind it. Back in the age of the internet, before there were credit cards the way there are now, everything was based on cash in the 80s, right? So you had cash and you had these bills and you had checks and you had paper money that flowed through banks and all this stuff. And prior to that, there was this gold standard, and then there was this silver standard. And then during the last century, we got rid of both of those things. We did it because the dynamics of transferring that stuff in order to maintain it didn't make sense. So we've been, for millennia, trying to figure out how to make money move faster. And with the advent of communication and the internet, we've had to figure out how to make it move even faster. So I like to go back to, for those of you who are watching this show, we probably all remember when credit cards began to become a thing. And you used to have one of those credit card swipers if you were a retailer.
Ka-chunk, ka-chunk.
that made, yep, that had made
Love
carbon
it.
copies that you mailed in. And then upon mailing it in, you then receive the funds in your bank, either through a wire transfer or you got a check from the credit card company. And the reason I like to start there is because I think what people need to understand is that we're seeing another iteration of technological advancement in the dynamics or movement of money with cryptocurrency specifically. Now, cryptocurrency and blockchain are not the same thing, okay? I want to make that very clear for people, because a lot of times people, the reason they get confused is because they hear cryptocurrency, they hear Bitcoin, then they hear blockchain, then they hear all this other stuff that happens like DeFi, Ethereum, a whole bunch of stuff. Now, cryptocurrency is built on this technology called blockchain. Blockchain is a technology that actually has been around for a while. It just has not been able to scale its application, because when it was initially created, it was created to make sure that data and information that was stored in computers was kept safer. Because the idea of a blockchain, if you base it on your computer, I'll take a step back. Think about if you've ever had a virus get on your computer and it wipes your hard drive clean. Not fun, right?
I told you I didn't want to talk about that.
Yeah, well, what you do at 1 a.m. in the morning is your own business.
I thought I had an incognito tab up. I didn't. Fine.
For those of you who don't know, DuckDuckGo, great advertisement. I like it. That's the funny part of it.
There's your plug.
The premise is this: is that when you're storing data on an individual device, it's easy to pinpoint because it's clearly got issues against hackers. You can get hacked on your home computer. It's not hard. It's just a matter if they want to hack you, they can. That is what it is.
Don't encourage them. It's not helping. Anyway.
All right. Without scaring people, understand that that's one storage device, one set of data. So your data gets wiped and you got hacked. So you've lost everything. So we began to do things like add redundancy in data. So now building backups into data. So if your home device gets hacked, you probably have a backup either on a hard drive or stored in the cloud, right? So that's where the whole cloud thing came into play. And we were able to scale to that cloud aspect because processing power, computers, all that stuff became cheaper to manufacture, cheaper to run, more efficient to run, etc. Okay, but it was simple or easier to hack it because it was still a single point of entry, clear the data, so hackers evolved, whatever. All right, this especially becomes an issue when you're talking about money. So now we go back to money. Some of you might be old enough to remember when people began to talk about double spending of money. So, and this happened when the centralized financial system began to gain a little more control of money, where all of this money that was digitized had to go through a central bank in order to make sure that you couldn't double spend it. Because prior to that, you could actually double spend money. You could send a check here and you could send a check there, and both of those checks would get ran and basically get double spent, and then they could come back and basically you were multiplying the money times 2 if you wanted to. And yes, it's fraudulent, but there are a lot of people who are not good people in the world doing this over and over and over again, acquiring goods, services, whatever, that you can't really refund because the money's already spent. That was a big issue as to why blockchain and centralization of post-centralization of this money mattered. Because centralization, even though it was an improvement on this, because just like servers and redundancy, was very slow. So the way the world works is money moves very quickly, and you have to be able to run it quickly. But if you're running all the money through a centralized bank or a centralized source, all those checkpoints are not very fast because it's so centralized. And it's still a single point of entry that is easy to hack. Yes.
Okay, I think I get it. Or at least I get where we're talking about right now. So going back to that idea about like running the credit card, the single point clearinghouse used to be send those things to a central or my bank, right? Who then does the processing and then
Yep.
the money gets moved, right? That's slow
Yes.
because I mean, at that point, you were literally talking paper and mail, right? So you're talking
Yes.
days of turnaround, if not longer. Your point is we still need, at least in order to prevent, that was also to prevent double spending, right? Because that thing has to get sent somewhere before the money can get moved or accounted for.
But the thing is you could still double spend because the time aspect
Because of the lag time. Because of the lag time. So I could go do it while that thing's in the mail, right? I can go run that thing here, and there, and basically, if I'm fast, right, more than double spend that money, which is obviously fraudulent. But also, I'm thinking like if I'm grandma who doesn't, or average person who doesn't balance their checkbook, actually, like potentially just a mistake I would make. Like in that world, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
right. So the point is this, right? The reason this is important for everybody to understand, and I'm walking through mechanics before I even get to the why, because I want you to understand mechanics, because everybody gets bogged down in the mechanics of this thing before they get to the why, because they go, it's technology. I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't know what it is. And so if you understand the mechanics of this whole thing are to eliminate the two biggest things are one, speed of money, two, and protection against fraud. Those are the two things that blockchain and cryptocurrency specifically are solving for. Because currency, if you look at currency is supposed to be something that everybody has valued as well, or has value, either in trading or perceived value or whatever, right? The dollar bill, right? If we look at the dollar bill, anything in the US, right? So I'm going to pull out a dollar bill here and I'm going to put it close to my screen. If you look at it, what does that say, Michael?
It's 20.
Can you read it?
Probably says something like, hold on, it's not focusing, but here, I'll get out my own 20. I love that you said, let me get out $1. And then you like up the ante, you're gonna make me have a 20 now. Hold on. Oh, I got a 20. Okay. So we're above the 20. It says, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private.
Yes. So dollar bills used to be backed by gold and silver. Now it's just backed by the US government. So this is just, think of this as a IOU. That's all this is. Okay. But yet we still perceive it as it has value, right?
Yeah.
Why do we perceive it as value? Because it's backed by the US government.
I'm not throwing this away. This has value.
Right. But my point is this. So if you look at just the definition of currency and the issues we have with currency, is currency doesn't, it used to be shells. It used to be pearls. It used to be diamonds and all this stuff way back when. And now it's a sheet of paper that is only backed by a government saying that if you trade this into the government, you will get $20 back. So all currency is an agreed upon value system of a tradable asset. Okay. And the reason this is important for regular people right now, and I say regular people, that's why I call it crypto for common folk, because people who are working and playing with money or spending money, large volume, they understand how money works. This is why financial literacy, even at a basic level, is so important for individuals to learn. So if you don't have, for example, a basis on your budget, all that other stuff, these are all things you need to understand before you start investing in an asset like cryptocurrency. But the point is cryptocurrency is eliminating the fraudulent aspect, it's increasing the speed, and it has perceived value, because the biggest thing of why this isn't going away and why people are equating it to gold, digital gold, for example, is because there is a limited amount that is going to be spent in terms of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a limited, finite amount that will be created over the course of its lifetime. And therefore, it will have a static value based on microeconomics of supply and demand, right?
So in the same way, there's theoretically a finite amount of gold because we can't make it, though, alchemists have tried. Right?
We do. We are making it. That's part of the reason why the cryptocurrency thing is happening. We are actually changing the electron status to make fake gold right now. It's just not as valuable yet.
I mean, like real gold. Like there's a finite amount of gold mineable from the earth. Like that's a thing, right? Like I can't actually make gold.
But the difference is we don't know how much that is. Whereas we know only 21 million Bitcoins will ever be mined.
How many have been mined so far?
Uh,
Elizabeth,
Elizabeth, you
producer,
look it up.
Elizabeth will look it up.
Easy.
No,
It's easy
seriously,
to
look
look
it
up.
up. This will be.
It changes every day
this is
because every
interesting.
time. All right. So I don't want to get into mining today. I want to talk about mining next week because I think it's important for people to understand the infrastructure aspect and why it's very similar to what we do with credit cards. The difference is this decentralization aspect and how people can get involved in that. I want to talk through that. But this week, I just want people to understand the why around why this is important for people, because we know that this is a global currency. This is not an individual government-backed currency. This is a global currency. From a why standpoint of why people are getting involved in this, so as of August 2021, 8.77 million Bitcoin have been mined. So potentially, I think it's what, 2140, the last one will be mined because of having and all that other technology stuff that I will get into. And part of the reason, friends, like, you need to understand the flow of the technology is because the technology is just the technology. So do we understand? We still haven't finished why blockchain is important to this. Blockchain eliminates the ability to hack the entire database because of what blockchain is. So if you think of blocks, so cryptocurrency is released in blocks in terms of specifically Bitcoin. So a block is a set of data. Okay. So do me a favor, Michael, since I'm not on the bottom, go lower.
Go lower? Why? Because we need more of a run? Okay, so block.
I just need rectangles. Just give me rectangles. Yep. So if you have a rectangle, okay, that's a set of data. Okay. Once that set of data is finished, right, and closed out, think of it like a file folder, then it's sealed with an encryption, and then another block of data is linked into it in the upper right-hand corner. So think of it as if it's stacked and linked as if it's a chain link of blocks. So it's linked directly, overlapping.
Oh, okay. So more like you're doing one of these.
The chain. That's why it's called blockchain.
Oh, don't make it so obvious and easy, Brad.
Okay.
So you're telling me a blockchain is a chain of blocks? That's weird.
It's a chain of blocks, and each of those is a set of data that opens and then seals with an encryption. So the idea behind this basic blockchain is a single blockchain like that. Okay. So every set of blocks of data has an encryption.
It's the whole thing.
The whole thing, yes. And every block has an encryption on the open and the close. Now, the trick behind this, the reason this is important, and this is where mining comes in, and we'll talk about it more next week, is that remember we talked about with cloud computing and cloud storage, there's redundancy. Now we've added redundancy into that. So we've copied that blockchain across multiple hundreds of thousands of computers and servers across the world. So that same blockchain is adding redundancy.
So it exists in more than one place, is what you're saying? So there's a duplicate of it, essentially, a clone?
There are hundreds of duplicates, if not thousands.
Okay. Lots.
So the point is remember when we talk about single cloud computing, like easy to penetrate, easy to hack, in order to hack a blockchain with redundancy like cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, is built, is you have to hack the whole network all at once. Because in order to open one block, you have to get through the encryption. In order to open the next block, you have to get through that encryption. In order to open the next block, you have to get through that encryption. And not only that, because you have redundancy, the network is constantly running verification on those blockchains to make sure that they're not corrupted. And if majority of the blockchain
is different now.
Correct. So they throw it out then. So the point is that the reason this is so secure from a fraudulent standpoint, on the basic data level, right? You cannot do double spend. You cannot double spend the money. You cannot hack it. You cannot steal it that way. You can steal it with the tokenization of things later, but we'll talk about that next week. The importance is that the speed of this, the redundancy, and the protection of it eliminates all of the ability of individual hacker right now to break into this all at once. He would have to hack the whole network and have access to all of those nodes, which in most cases means millions of nodes, millions of computers.
That's a lot.
spread out across different IP addresses, spread out around the world against different firewalls, right? Like very hard to get through. So from a technology standpoint, understand that money becomes safer this way. One, against inflation, right? Because you have limited supply and demand. Two, against this whole digital money aspect. Now you can't hack a bank and people can't steal your money out of your bank because of that, right? Because of the redundancy and everything else that happens with it. And three, the last advantage is that because it's decentralized and it's not running through a central bank, it's decentralized across all of these thousands of computers, you no longer have a single individual managing and saying, this is the value of my money. The software and the computers say your value of your money is based on supply and demand, which is what the economy is built on. It's not based on a central bank or a board saying, this is the value of a dollar, let's just go print money. So a couple of use cases here. I want to talk about from a socio-economic standpoint. Think about countries that are controlled by dictators.
Okay.
Okay. Those dictators can literally say, the money was printed by me. It is now my money. It is worth nothing for you, even though you just spent 10 years trying to save this paper money. And it happened, right?
Right.
Now, in the advent of, hey, I'm doing this from my car on my cell phone, there are more cell phone devices around the world, and most people in what we would call developing countries still have cell phones and have access to the internet one way or another, and now can set up a wallet of wealth and build wealth outside of their country's banking system, because then their dictator can't say, hey, your money is worthless. The other thing is governments also now are able to balance their bank against a more stable currency. This is what we just saw happen in El Salvador. We've seen it happen in Venezuela, where governments are actively seeking a way to stabilize their currency, their government currency, by backing it with something that has finite wealth. So in El Salvador, the government just legalized it recently to be legal tender in hopes to combat inflation and fraudulent printing of their money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So those are like two ways in socioeconomic standpoints where cryptocurrency makes sense. Now, for those of you who are running business, this is where it gets fun. Oh, there's a third one that I want to talk about. Those people who have to send money across country or across countries, across borders, it's really difficult right now. There's a lot of fees. Sometimes sending that money costs more than what the person on the other end actually gets, just because you're having to send wire transfers through a centralized institution who's going to verify it, et cetera.
Right.
Cryptocurrency solves all of these things because you're now running it through a decentralized network that's automated through computers, and all of these nodes that are created are helping to validate and verify it, and it's faster because now everybody's using their cell phone to transfer money rather than having to go to, for example, Western Union to send money from Wisconsin overseas to Southeastern Asia, because that's where my family still is, because I moved over here for work.
Okay, question. Oh, we just lose the Brad? No. Finally, I have a question.
Give me a second.
There. That's all right, as long as you can still hear me. All right, so here's my question. So global currencies, let's say US dollar versus a euro, right? Like there's an exchange rate, right? Not regardless of who decides what that is, there is one. So
yes,
a Bitcoin has a relative value in US dollar and a relative value in euro. Is that right?
Yeah, it has a relative value equating to every piece of governmental currency out there in the world.
Because it's decentralized from this, this agreed upon value standpoint. So how is which currency is it tied to for that value establishment? Because I mean, at some point you have to say it's this many X, which is the equivalent of that many Y, right?
It's yeah, sure, you can do that. But so everything in the world is based on the petrodollar right now. You've never heard the term petrodollar? Petrodollar. So petroleum dollar.
Oh,
petroleum dollar. Basically,
okay.
everything right now in the world is backed by the petrodollar. So if you look
So
up
I gotta throw
petrodollars,
barrel of oil. Okay, got it.
yeah. So it's not necessarily even U.S. dollars. U.S. dollars are backed by the government, and the reason the government's U.S. dollar is so strong is because the active holding of an asset class called petrodollars.
Okay. Obviously, I'm taking your word for all of the above, including this random factoid. Okay, so there's a petrodollar. So the US dollar has a petrodollar equivalent, as does the euro, in theory, then as does the Bitcoin and all of the other variations thereon.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we want to consider what the US dollar is really backed by right now, the US dollar is more backed by oil, crude oil, than it is gold.
Okay. That's all I got. Okay. I don't even know what to do with that yet, but good to know. All of my forms of currency are being kind of muddled, but I think I'm getting okay. So
the idea, this is why this is complicated, and this is why we're going to do multiple episodes of this, and this is also why I'm starting a whole podcast called Crypto for Common Folk, and because
you heard it here first.
Because this is important. It's important for people to understand cryptocurrency is not going away. Whether you believe it or not, whether you believe in magical internet money or not, it is not going away. The application basis of it is too strong, and the adoption is the fastest adoption of any technology ever created in human history, period.
Any technology, meaning the blockchain technology?
Yeah, I'm saying yes.
Huh. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with that yet, but that's fascinating.
Here's what I'd say. Knowing that it's not going to go away, it's going to evolve, right? We know cryptocurrency will evolve, but we also know it's not going to go away, which is why, in terms of what cryptocurrency is really doing, if you look at it from you and me as an individual perspective, it is giving me control of my financial well-being more so than putting it in the hands of centralized banking systems. At the end of the day, I think all of us would like to have more control over our money, regardless of your belief system. We want to know that the dollars that are coming into our pockets are valued at a certain rate and will consistently spend at a certain rate wherever I go, whether it's the grocery store, the coffee shop, sending money to a friend, buying Christmas presents, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, this is something that everybody, young or old, needs to start learning, because we've been dealing with digital money for over 30 years.
Right.
We've been dealing with it. The difference is this is the next evolution in it. So rather than it going through a centralized bank, now it's going through a decentralized system that is not controlled by human beings that can automatically print money just by saying, I print money, or just by lending money. Actually, the real way inflation happens is through lending money over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's actually how inflation happens.
Basically giving out the same theoretical money over and over, is what you're saying.
Correct, because right now most governments do not have an asset-backed currency. They all have notes that say, this is a promissory note, that when you turn it into the government, you will be paid its worth.
Got it.
So the idea is to stabilize economics for individuals. This is a path to that. It's going to take time, but the adoption rates increased at a rate that is huge, and it's global. So for those of you who are like considering different things about the impacts of this from a government standpoint, politics, yeah, all of those things are going to shift over time. I don't know what those are yet. I have zero clue. I have some ideas, but you're already seeing the impact of this in industries like art and music. Right. And you're already seeing impacts of this in things like tangentially in energy usage and energy efficiency, which we can talk about more next week. But
okay. I like it.
the point of understanding the basics of crypto, and I hope the one thing you get out of this is that it's not going away, and it's time to start learning, and it's time to start owning more of your financial literacy as an individual, because we're moving to a point where asset classes no longer are going to be created and held in a centralized institution the same way. They still will be regulated, but they're not going to be held in that same way. Most people who have portfolios, they have secondary stocks, they have secondary funds. They don't actually own the stock certificates for most people. They own mutual funds, or they own stocks that are secondary market stocks. They're not actually on the trading floor where the stocks are actually issued. So these are all things with the dynamics and the speed and the world not sleeping anymore because of the internet. Money will continue to move, and it's going to continue to go. So look at it from that standpoint. If the reason I put that link on here
at the bottom of the screen, tell us a little bit about that.
So yes, it is an affiliate link. All right. 1, this is not financial advice. 2, all of that good stuff that's legally binding. The reason I like Coinbase, especially for people who are new to cryptocurrency, is because they do a good job of education around cryptocurrency for individuals. If you go to that link, whether you want to do that one or not, what you do if you click that link and you end up purchasing $100 in cryptocurrency, you'll get an extra $10 on top of it. So that's their way to basically incentivize people to learn about this, to at least get involved. And here's the deal: cryptocurrency is still a highly volatile asset, but it's worth understanding because eventually we're already beginning to see it stabilize more and more and more every single day, every single year. I've been in this since 2013. It's changed a ton. I've seen it go from 0. I've seen it go up to 66,000, and I've seen it drop back down, right? Like I've seen every up and down that it's been as a market. And so for you as an individual watching this, just begin to learn. Next week we'll go into a little more around why the infrastructure behind it, what mining is, different coins, all those different applications of it. But I think for today, this is like, typically this conversation that I have is like a 3-hour conversation boiled down into 30 minutes or less.
It sounds like us. Yeah.
Without a whiteboard for me to draw things. Michael's doing his best.
Definitely. Yeah. Best, not great, but best I can manage. Especially like that's an awful shell, and I'd like to reserve the right to redraw the shell at a later date, because that's really a terrible looking shell for my examples of previous assets. Anyway, so okay, I think that's a good wrap for part 1, take 2 of Crypto for Common Folk. I like it, and congratulations on the unofficial launch of the new series. Hey, you heard it here first. We break news and other things here at Sketchy Ideas. So I'm glad you were here for it. With that, let's wrap up episode 69 today. Crypto for Common Folk. Thanks, Brad, for the breakdown, the summary, and everybody say hi to Clark. Hi, Clark. Clark, over here. Clark.
He can't hear you. Clark.
Oh, that's no fun.
There he is.
Hey, bud.
Hi, Clark.
Hey, bud. Unofficial mascot of all things crypto and sketchy. Folks, tune in next time when we get into part 2, as Brad alluded and described for us. In the meantime, send us your questions to info@sketchyideashow.com. Our producer, Elizabeth, will do her best to not try to understand them, but forward them directly on to Brad, who will be able to understand and decipher and answer them. And then she'll send it back as if she knew what was going on. That's how I operate anyway. And in the meantime, share this with your friends, reach out to us, let us know what you'd like us to sketch, and we'll talk to you next week. And remember, just because it's a sketchy idea doesn't mean it's not worth exploring. We'll see you next time, folks.